I call the Carroll County Board of Commissioners Thursday, February 25th, 2021, 4 o'clock work session to order. I'm going to call on our Finance Director, Alicia Searcy, to present our financial update for the month ending January 2021.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
I have a summary of where we kind of ended up January. We've continued to collect our property tax. At this point, we've collected about 95% of our budgeted property tax. Motor vehicle taxes, we've collected about 82%. That's a monthly collection, so we will see that exceed budget, I think. Sales tax, again, that's a monthly collection, so we're at 75% of our budget, so I feel like we'll see that exceed budget by the end of the year. Our total tax revenue at this point's up over last January, 8.6%. We've also seen an increase in fine, fees, and forfeitures of 19.3%. That's led by state court, where we've seen an increase of 30%. And part of that's due to the traffic division that the Sheriff's Office has put in. That's been pretty successful, and hopefully it's making our roads more safe. The probate revenue's also up about 17%, contributing to that additional revenue in the fine, fees, and forfeitures. So our revenue as a whole, January 21 to January 2020, is up 8%. Our expenses are still doing well. The year is about 58% complete, and our expenses are at about 55.6%. So we're still running behind what we had budgeted as far as expenditures. And some of that is COVID related in some of the departments like court services where we're still not fully functional, and those departments are not needing expenses because they're still not having jury trials, but we expect that to change in April. So we will see the court system become more functional at that point if these jury trials are successful. For the revenue as a whole at the end of January was at $46,469,000, which is 83.62% of budget. Last January we were at $43 million, and that was about 80.6% of budget. So we've seen about a $3.4 million increase from January 21 over January 2020 on the revenue side. And then on the expenditure side, January of 2021, we've expended $30,922,000, which is, like I said, 55.6% of our budget. And in January of 2020, we had expended $30,753,000. So our expenditures are up about $169,000. Our fund balance continued to grow through January. We're currently up $8,655,000 in fund balance, and our cash continued to grow through January. We went from $32,450,000 to up from $23,831,000 in January of 2020. So that's an $8.6 million increase in cash, general fund cash. So at the end of January, we continued to do well. We were very conservative in our budget, and I'm glad that we were. None of us knew what COVID was going to bring us. Fortunately for Carroll County, people have continued to buy cars. They've continued to spend money resulting in that sales tax increase. And the courts have been functional enough to continue to bring in fines, fees, and forfeitures, even though they haven't been fully functional. We've still seen increases there, and as well as in Parks and Rec, we continue to be up year over year. So it's a good year for Carroll County.
Any questions for Alicia?
Ms. Cersei, I echo your sentiments that overall this looks very good. A few of the highlights, and it's kind of piggybacking on what you were talking about. This is in relative numbers. So we're up about 170,000 from prior year to date on expenditures. But if we look at what we had actually budgeted, that number, we really should be about 1.3 million. So that's really a good number in the opposite direction there. And when you come down and look at our revenues, it's kind of the same story there. We're up about 3.5 million. If you figured, though, percentage-wise on year-to-date, we really should only be sitting at about 1.3 million up in revenue. So we're doing well there also. The only concern I have, and it's nothing that we can control in the moment, but our budgets, our departments are doing very good. I am concerned about the price of fuel, and that's not anything we're going to be able to control, but you start looking at the months that are going to be coming up, we're going to start seeing, past expenses that have just started with those going up at the pump. We've got several departments that are very vehicle heavy in operations, and we could be looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars in each one of those departments for extended fuel costs. So here again, I know that's something we'll watch, and I think overall from an umbrella perspective we're doing very well, but that does concern me. If the trajectory continues, these numbers won't look quite as good, even though we're in good shape.
I agree with you.
Thank you.
Okay, hearing no other questions.
Alicia, just wanting to say thanks, and great to hear that we're consistently doing well on the revenues and expenditure side. And thanks. I'm over here in Tennessee, but I like to hear that, and I saw that as well with your financial report. So good. Just wanted to say thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, now we will move on to the review and discussions for the item on the March 2nd Board of Commissioners meeting agenda. Let me switch back over. Okay, there we go. Okay, we'll move to the financial session. I'm going to call Charles Pope to come about the dump truck purchase for Public Works.
Thank you, Chairman, Board of Commissioners. Recently, we've had 2 dump trucks to overturn and be totaled. On 2/21 of 19, we had a 2007 model to overturn on Jones Mill Road, which was totaled. It had 297,502 miles on it, and the insurance company did pay us $27,315 on that particular vehicle. So we had another one to overturn on 12/15 of 2020. It was a 2002 model. It overturned on Old Word Road just west of town, and that vehicle had 374,524 miles on it, and we received a check on it for $7,488.33. And what I'm asking y'all to do maybe is to approve for me to buy a used dump truck, which not to exceed over $60,000. And of course, it might take a month or 6 weeks or so to find one.
Any questions for Charles?
Those beds are reusable,
Sure.
right?
Well, actually, the bed was bent on both of them. That's the reason they was totaled. But we got to keep the last one for they got to let us keep it for $800, which is well worth that. So we just paid the $800 and kept it.
I was just wondering if they were reusable, Because I know beds are high.
Yeah,
getting them
they're
installed.
expensive, yeah.
Okay. Can't use them, you can't use them.
Mr. Pope, it's my understanding a new dump truck, you could be easily looking at around $200,000. So would that be a fair statement? So if you're looking at this number, 60,000 may sound like a lot of money, but in comparison, if we were trying to bid this out and get something brand new, we would be looking at substantial dollars over what you're asking.
Yes, sir. It would probably run about 170 or above.
Is that with the bed?
Okay, if there's no further questions, Charles, I'm going to turn it over to you for 10.2, the defects building, the roof renovations.
All right. It's a roof renovation to the Carroll County defects building. On December 28th, the RFPs went out. We had a mandatory pre-bid meeting on January the 11th of 2021 at 1 p.m. We had 11 contractors to show up and sign in. Bid proposals were to be returned no later than 2 p.m. on Monday, February the 1st. They will be accepted via hand mail or hand delivered or email. We had 7 proposals, which 5 of the proposals met the RFP, 2 did not. So you can see the chart where we scored them. We had 4 people on our committee to score the companies, and of course we had 1 low, but we went with the next bidder, who we recommended was Ben Hill Roofing. But reason being that they got 57 employees, been in business over 50 years. They done the roof for us at Station 16, I believe it is, north of Villarica. Done a good job. You don't have to look over them every day. They done the CI roof when we had it done just a couple of years ago. So that's who the committee, what was scored the highest, and that's who the committee would recommend to go with, was Ben Hill Roofing.
Any questions for Charles?
The committee that does this, are they knowledgeable in what they're looking at?
Yes, sir.
They're
Yes.
knowledgeable in roofing?
Yeah, well, actually, you see what we had here. We went through this. It took us about 5 hours to go through these and comb through it and, pick the best we had, because we had a couple that's been on the committees before. So, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Pope, looking at the way that the RFP was designed, it looked like the base, without the alternate, you had a little over a $51,000 spread between the 7. And when you added in the alternate, you had about an $85,000 spread, which you're getting, I guess, more into the expertise, or what, if you will, that the alternate was asking for. It looks like when you're comparing these numbers, and obviously I wasn't on your committee, but if you look at the numbers, you're somewhere in between, in the middle of the lowest and the highest. And I know a lot of times, having served on committees myself, that's not necessarily always the way it ends out, but when you're doing a lot of subjectivity work, as you mentioned, looking at the history of the company and their work schedule and the amount of employees and a lot of different factors you take into consideration, many times you will somewhat end up in the middle of what those numbers are. So it looks fair enough to me, is my point, because I know a lot of times we only home in on the numbers, but it's important to take into consideration everything you all looked at.
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay, seeing and hearing no other questions, I'm going to invite Chief Padgett up to discuss the SAFER grant. Thank you, Charles.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and Board of Commissioners. Sorry, I run a little bit late, but we had a retired firefighter's funeral today. Firefighter Larry Bostwick with the Sand Hill community, served over 30 years. So, but I'm here tonight to ask for y'all's permission to apply for the SAFER grant. The SAFER grant opened early this year. It normally opens in April. We had our first webinar about it on Tuesday. Second webinar was today on Thursday, giving us the guidelines. So just really asking for permission to apply for that grant. This grant would actually staff your firefighters at the 2 fire stations that are not staffed. And right now, it looks like that these grants will be at 100%.
Any questions for Tim?
Chief, I appreciate the work you and your staff are doing looking at these grants, and hopefully this is something that will pan out for us. I know in some conversation with you and your staff have spent a lot of time trying to keep up with all the changing things from the federal administration and trying to make sure that we get a fair shot of seeing if this is something we can do. We know the community is looking forward to us being able to fully man those, and that number of 100% starting out, if that's a possibility, would definitely help us long term as we try to ultimately fit this in our budget in 3 or 4 years to completely take over what that expenditure would be.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move into the business session. We have one item, 11.1, a Second Amendment Preservation Resolution. I'll turn this over to Commissioner Lee.
Yes, this is just another layer of protection for Carroll County with what's going on in the federal law. And I feel like it's something we need to put in place now. And it's not a sanctuary. And I know the newspaper said sanctuary. I wasn't asking for sanctuary. I'm asking for preservation of the Second Amendment. So I just wanted to go on record saying that. Sanctuary means you can come start trouble.
Thank you for clarifying that. Is there any questions or comments for Commissioner Lee?
I'd like to thank the Vice Chairman for bringing this before us, and I know I've had a lot of constituents that have been concerned about this, and as the Commissioner stated, this is preserving something that's already in the Constitution, and when we were all sworn into office, we rose our hand to make sure that we would do just that, to preserve what the Constitution states. So I agree that it's something that's at the forefront of a lot of people's minds in the country, and I'm proud to support this along with Vice Chairman Lee. Thank you.
Okay, well, hearing and seeing no other comments, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn our meeting till Tuesday night. Thank you.
Thank you.